All right, so we are ready to dive into a powerful conversation around emotional eating, around hormone balancing, and supporting women to really live their life to the fullest and not be held back by their bodies and by their health. And today I have Amber Romaniuk here with me, an expert and just such a lovely soul who is educating women around the world and who's also been on quite the journey herself when it comes to body and hormone balancing. So, welcome to the show, Amber.
Thank you for having me, Amy. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Yeah, I can tell, like feel your passion and your depth of service in your work. Like I can just tell how important this is to you. And I'd love for you to just share a little bit about like why is it so important for you to be educating and supporting women on their journey with emotional eating and digestion and hormone balancing?
Yeah, thank you for feeling that. And it's so important because 90% of the female population in North America is struggling with some form of emotional relationship with food and or body image issues. And so many women are keeping this secret and they feel so much shame and guilt and embarrassment. And it's truly holding them back from fully enjoying their lives, being present, reaching these levels of optimal health and power that they know that they deserve to have, but that seem out of reach. And I know it's not just North America, like it's all over the world, but we've been hit so hard here with these things. And I just want to help the world heal this epidemic of fighting with ourselves and food because life is so much more freeing and peaceful when we're not dealing with that and the other things that life brings our way. So
Yeah,
it
it
was
can
a
be
deep
so
journey.
all consuming, right? When we're
It
so
is.
obsessed with food and our bodies and we just don't feel great when we're wrapped up in that.
No, no, not at all. And we are not in tune with our bodies. We've been not been taught how to become aware. And when you're fighting with your body and food in the scale, you have no access to your intuition, your body speaking to you, connection, the self love, the worth, the power. Like it's all suppressed or snuffed out, or we're so asphyxiated with the external, the numbers on the scale, the clothing sizes, looking a certain way, chasing calories, chasing numbers, that we are so out of touch. And it's not our fault. It's the system was designed that way on purpose because you become a great consumer to all these big systems when you're fighting with your body and food, the diet industry, the fitness industry, the weight loss industry, the food industry, pharma, if you end up, ending up needing medication. So there was just a big drive as I healed my relationship with food and like woke up to how this was all essentially created and how women were so targeted and impacted that wow, there's a lot of healing to do here. And also, when I was healing, the first thing that I did before embarked on my own journey and went, I have to do this myself, was I went and saw a psychologist once. And I'm not like downgrading anyone's practice or gifts or whatever, but I went to the session for the first time, shared everything that I'm binge eating. I'm eating out of my garbage. I binged and purged and all of these things. And essentially, after I shared and poured my heart out, she was just like, well, just don't go to the store and buy the food. You just need to learn how to love yourself. And then I said, have you ever been through this? Do you even know what it feels like? And she's like, no. So there was a lack of compassion and empathy and almost felt like a judgment. And that's also why I felt inspired because I'm like, this is a very vulnerable subject, and women need to feel safe and be held in a safe space with their vulnerabilities, their insecurities, and actually, I think, also have people who have been through and can really deeply understand what is going on here, right? So there's a relatability factor.
Yeah, thanks for sharing even just a little bit of insight of what your personal experience was. And I read that you've, been on a journey of weight gain and weight loss where you've, gained and lost over 1,000 pounds. So your body has been
Mhm.
through a lot. And I just imagine like the inner like roller coaster and yo-yo and back and forth that must have been for you being in that body and being in that state like of that, those changes that were happening for you?
Oh gosh, it was such an emotional roller coaster. And yeah, you think, oh wow, 1,000 pounds. Yeah, well, when your weight's up and down 20 to 40 pounds every other month, or every month you're up and down 10, 20, 30, like it doesn't take long to accumulate that loss and gain. And it's so hard on the body and your psyche and your energy and every aspect of your being to be in that. But again, like we just get so conditioned by Hollywood, the media, all these systems, our upbringing. If our parents or mothers or grandmothers had body image issues, if you were put on a diet when you're 6 years old, like it all creates this relationship with your body and food, and it snuffs our self-worth. And then we think, oh my gosh, there's something wrong with me because I don't look like the photoshopped images in the magazine. I don't look like the celebrities. There's something wrong with me. And it's like, no, actually there isn't. We're being sold lies. It's the editing, the photoshopping, like all of these lies. But then you're the problem. There's something wrong with you. And it's like, no, there's a problem with these systems and what they're being allowed to sell, and plant into our subconscious minds. Right? Because when you're
Mm.
constantly being inundated with imagery of these quote unquote perfect bodies, like that's literally what's ingrained. Right? But then again, we get hard on ourselves versus going, actually, no, I'm in my power. That's not real. Every woman has a different shape and size, and that's okay. Yes, I feel like I have a natural set point with my weight that feels good for me, but I just feel like it's fueled a whole other level of dysmorphia and like filters now and like social media. Like, thank God when I was growing up, there was no phones yet. And it was like you'd buy your magazine and, you'd watch like MTV. But now it's like social media takes it to a whole different level.
Yeah, in so many ways, especially young women, they're so susceptible to
Yeah.
receiving these messages and maybe not having the understanding of the impact that it's having on them on such, like you said, a deep, deep, deep subconscious level. And I think that one of the things that I always talk about in my work is that, as one woman heals, she gives other women permission to do the same. And so it's like us doing this healing work and women really committing to creating a healthy relationship with their bodies. It's not just for us, it's for future generations of women. And it's such important work because when you are in that space, and I can speak from personal experience of feeling insecure and having all this
Yeah.
negative self-talk and worrying about what's the right exercise and what's the right food and being in that like perfectionism, which also is like the masculine, toxic masculine, I would say,
Yeah.
healthy version of masculine energy. But when you're so obsessed with the numbers on the scale and how much protein, carbs, and fat to eat, and like I started in the nutrition world, which is very logical and very scientific, and there's
Yeah.
value to that. But when that is what's taking up our mental landscape, like you said, it's really hard to enjoy your life. It's hard to put energy into your passions, or it's hard to put energy into your relationships. Like there's not that much energy left at the end of the day
Yeah.
to be spending time doing things that actually make you happy.
100%. And I love that you brought up the like that we're healing this for the generations to come, because I actually came from like 3 generations of like hoarding, lack, food addiction from my mom, my grandmother, my great grandmother, from like the Great Depression and flowing that forward. So when I also realized that my emotional eating, my food addiction was, and it wasn't a blame, but it was like, wow, that's so interesting. Like I inherited this lineage. And
Mm.
I just remember my mom always, I'd look in the fridge and be like, how come like it's always so cramped full? And she's like, well, I didn't have enough when I was a kid. So I don't want to ever have that happen again. And it was like with jewelry and like all these things. And it was just so interesting to observe that lack experience, that even though there's so much, it's like never enough. Plus, not feeling good enough. So you're trying to fill this void with food, with whatever it is that you're never going to fill with food. And I remember going and like to the grocery store and buying my binge food, and I would eat until I was so full I was sick, and I'd go to the organic store,
Mhm.
justifying it that it was a healthier choice, even though it doesn't matter when you're eating that much. And I remember like having my basket full of food, and I'd always look and be like, I don't think I have enough. Like if this is the last time I'm going to do this at perfection all or nothing mentality, I can't run out. And so there's that lack, even though it was always like I was throwing half of it away at the end of the night. Right. So it's just so interesting though, how a lack mentality, whether with food, money, love, like whatever it is, really keeps us in that disempowered state, bouncing back and forth from being all in, losing control of food, or going all out and trying to restrict and diet and calorie count over exercise, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's so fascinating how a lot of this does get passed down through our lineage, and it's usually not intentional.
Yeah.
And we're just, as young women, we are looking to our mothers and to our female role models in our life for guidance. And
Yeah.
I just can't, I remember so many moments and like even being in the dressing room and like having these meltdowns and like my mom being there and she was doing the best that she could, but like
Yeah.
just maybe even not having the understanding how to support like a young woman who's going through that. And
Yeah.
something that I know about myself from a really young age is that I've always had really deep emotions and I've always, I didn't really know what to do with those emotions growing up. And when we're talking about emotional eating, especially in the realm of understanding, what it means to be a feminine being is like we do have this really wide range of emotions. And from a young age, we're not taught how to handle, how to
No.
process those emotions, how to be with those emotions. And so what I've seen is, we have all these different coping mechanisms and
Yeah.
numbing mechanisms, and food is such like a socially acceptable way, to every single day, like we have to eat. That's the
Yeah.
hardest thing about like emotional eating and about body image is like we have to eat to survive. And so
Yeah.
when that is the coping mechanism, like it's so hard to get out of that because it's
Yeah.
everywhere all the time. Like it's really challenging.
100%. That's the thing. Like you can quit alcohol, you can quit drugs, but you can't quit food. But the thing is it I think we've been again conditioned into quick fix. Oh, just stop consuming this thing. But that doesn't resolve the issue. And you're right. I'm the same way, the deep emotions. I'm a very sensitive empath. I can feel people's energy. I can feel when the collective's amped up or angry or in lack or whatever it is. And when you don't know how to manage that or you don't know what's yours and what isn't, you just feel everything and you do. It's like you're not taught how to cope. You're told just be strong, don't cry, like you'll get through it, right? And then we just like hold all of that in within and then we feel like we can't fully be ourselves and express this part of us even though at the time I had no idea what it was like the love and just this wanting to be loving and kind and listen to people, right? And you think this isn't good, I'm going to just shut this part of me off and just like behave this way to appease my family, appease society, to be part of the tribe and be part of the group. And then we
Sure.
don't realize we're literally like denying ourselves this access to this incredible part of us that is so powerful and so a part of like your guidance system and your ability to like, again, become aware and in tune and listen to your intuition, listen to your body, your higher self, like whatever aspects of you. And I think that was one of the most beautiful parts of healing binge eating is feeling the intuition come back online, feeling that empathic part of me come back online. It was very scary at first, to be honest, because it was like, wow, like this is really strong. What am I going to do with this? But then learning how to manage it. Right. And then you're like, wow, this is a superpower. I'm so grateful that I have access to these things. But yeah, I feel like it's just like, go to school, go to college, get a job, or like this is the things you need to do. You just need to like make a living. And it's like there's so much more, right? But if we are afraid to feel our emotions, we're afraid to look at our stuff or to get quiet with ourselves, which so many women are. They're afraid to feel, they're afraid to slow down and look at what's going on because they've tied their worth into how much they do and achieve versus it being a feeling that is like always available and is truly a part of who you are. And so there's a lot of fear and guilt and discomfort around looking at these things and not numbing it down and shoving it down anymore. So it's like a process and it's a slow process and we don't rip the band-aid off because otherwise it's so hard on the nervous system and your hormones and too much discomfort too fast is probably going to turn you off from wanting to continue on the path.
Yeah, this is reminding me of a client that I'm working with right now. And, it's really hard for her to slow down because she's in like a hyper vigilant state because it's like a safety thing for her.
Yeah.
And it's really hard for her to slow down because it's scary for her to feel. And if I were to tell her, okay, like, I want you to start meditating for like 10 minutes a day, that would be like way too intense for her when
Yeah.
like sitting down and being quiet at all is like the thing that she's avoiding, right? And
Yeah.
of course, like we avoid those places, like our ego is afraid, oh, if I actually let myself feel, then I'm going to be different, I'm going to change, I'm going to have to face that. Like there's so much fear around it, right? And ultimately we know that like the only way out is through, and it does get to be like a really really gentle approach. And so with her I'm like, okay, like this week, your practice is for to set a timer for 1 minute. And in that
Yeah.
1 minute to track and to sit and like create a peaceful environment for yourself, just 1 minute. Right. And
Yeah.
and it's like almost like this, like dipping your toes into like the shallow end, right? Instead of
Yeah.
jumping into the deep end. Because like you said, if we unlock all these emotions and we unlock all this energy in one go, like it is too much for the system, especially when we haven't learned how to hold that much
Yeah.
intensity in the body.
100% well said. And it's got to be the slow pace. And each person's on a different journey. And I think, I mean, your listeners will attest to this. I'm sure you say this all the time. Like, don't compare your journey to anyone else and like just let yourself take the time you need to take because the freedom is going to be a lot more of your life than this current struggle or issue that you're having, whether it's with emotional eating, body image, a hormone. You're setting the stage for freedom and peace and these gifts that you're going to get to have for the rest of your life. And it's worth going through that discomfort. And then your discomfort becomes your comfort zone. And it's like where emotional eating and binge eating was my comfort zone. It got to the point where it started to become unfamiliar and uncomfortable to keep doing that. And what was starting to feel more familiar and comfortable was self care, journaling, meditating, exploring my triggers, catching them, catching negative self talk and shifting it to positive, getting enough sleep, eating regularly. Like that became the norm and the comfort zone. And I was like, wow, like it's starting to really change, right? Because we're rewiring our brain and we're regrowing new parts of our brain like it's a process.
Yeah, and it kind of reminds me of, what our typical like societal way that we see success or that we're progressing. It's like this idea that it has to happen instantly, that it should be
Hmm.
happening faster, that you're behind because it's taking you a longer time. Like I think the thing that people don't see, like when they see the wins on social media or they see people, whether it's being successful in their business or feeling comfortable and confident in their body, or being in a healthy relationship. It's like that's what you see, but you don't see behind the scenes of like how
No.
long did that actually take? And it
Yeah.
it takes a lot of devotion and a lot of time. And like you said, everyone's journey is different and the amount of time that it takes is different. So
Yeah.
I think that's such an important thing. And the feminine is about slowness. It's about like let's get out of that rush. Like let's slow things down a little bit and let's shift out of this like instant gratification society
Yeah.
that really isn't sustainable.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the other thing too is that and that's what I love about our bodies and the wisdom of our bodies is they won't tolerate the quick fix. They're
Mhm.
like, "No, you really want to heal this? I'm going to hang on to that weight or I'm going to until you really go deep and you really master this because your body, she's like, "I want you to master this. I want you to be free of it." So, I'm going to really lovingly challenge you. Your body loves you. Your body cannot hate you. It's the mind that gets programmed into hate or loathing or whatever is going on for you. But remember, your body unconditionally loves you. You get a cut, it heals, right? You get sick, you get better. Your body's always working in your favor, but it's the mind that's been programmed into all these other things. And so just remember, even if you're like, but why would my body put me through this? Or why is this going on for me? It's like you have no idea what kind of magic could be on the other side of that, right? Like if I wouldn't have literally been to the point where I was eating out of my garbage can, I would not have gotten the wake up call to go, okay, I need to figure out what to do about this and heal this and then start a business and help thousands of women. Like it's sucked at the time. There's no like other way to describe it, but it's a blessing looking back on everything that my body led me through.
Yeah, such an important perspective. And oftentimes, when we're in the moment, we don't know why things are happening for us, right? But if you can maintain that perspective of like, there's a reason that I'm going through this challenge,
Mhm.
there's a greater reason for this. And I felt that way when I was going through my divorce, which was like such a huge catalyst for me, which was just like, oh my God, like, I just knew I was like, there has to be a bigger reason of like why I'm struggling so hard with this, right?
Yeah.
There's got to be a reason bigger than myself, and like that was such a driving force for me to keep going, right? Which is so
Yeah.
different than being like, oh, why is this happening to me and why do I keep getting stuck in the same cycles? It's just not a productive conversation to be in.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Something else that I really love that you really highlight in your work is understanding the role that hormone imbalances play in emotional eating, and then vice versa, how emotional eating plays a role in hormone imbalances. And just for women, like our hormones, they make such a big impact on so many functions in our life, how we feel emotionally, how we feel physically,
Yeah.
and like it really impacts our day to day when we're having imbalanced hormones. So I'd love for you to share a little bit more about the link between these two pieces.
Oh, they're huge. And even if you're not an emotional eater, if you're the perfectionist with an overbooked schedule, you're last on your list, you're having trouble slowing down, that will have a significant impact on your hormones, aside from emotional eating, dieting, over exercising, things like that. So, yeah, this is huge. And my hormones were a mess in my mid 20s when I healed my relationship with food. That was the next piece I had to start working on. I was postmenopausal, had a thyroid issue. My stress hormone cortisol was the highest level I've still to this day ever seen. Like, I really did a number on my hormones. And my cycle was irregular. I gained 80 pounds post binge eating because my body was just so stressed. And so I started really learning a lot about hormones and the connections between all of them, and how if one goes off, it really can impact all of them. And so the common trifecta imbalance that I see for women, and this can start in your 20s, that this doesn't have to wait until menopause or perimenopause, is most women, every single client I've ever had from their 20s to their 80s has high cortisol or low cortisol, stress hormone imbalance. It's referred to as adrenal fatigue or adrenal burnout. So cortisol is produced by your adrenal glands, and we should only produce it in small amounts when we wake up in the morning to get us going. There's like a 2-hour window where it should be a bit elevated, get us up, get us going for the day, or if there's a serious threat. And then we should be able to process through whatever that threat is in a few minutes and get back into rest and digest. But we're flipped. Most women are dysregulated all the time. Their nervous systems are overwhelmed. Their cortisol is off because there's just so much going on, so much responsibility. And then if you're also dealing with these things that we've been talking about, self-sabotage with food, negative self-talk, etc., it's just so easy to spike your cortisol. As soon as you go into self-loathing, body goes into a stress response, you're producing too much cortisol. Okay, now your body's breaking down instead of building up. So that's how easy it can be, and why the mindset work and the self-talk and shifting that is so important for hormone balance. And so what happens is with cortisol issues, you'll have brain fog. You'll feel tired to exhausted no matter how much you sleep. It's never enough. Afternoon energy lulls, your blood sugar is so much more sensitive. You crave more sugar, refined carbs, and salt, more abdominal weight gain. So as soon as the body feels that fight or flight, and it continues and we don't address it, your body thinks there's literally a bear circling you, even though there isn't, but it's sensing threat. So the brain will tell the abdomen, okay, we need to shuttle stress hormone to the abdomen. We need to put on weight and inflammation and retention, because in case that bear attacks you, your vital organs that are vulnerable are going to be more protected and you have a higher likelihood of surviving. That's literally why women will gain weight in the abdomen, because there is a stress response and that is having a big impact. So if that's going on for you and you can't release that weight and you're tired and you're not able to fall asleep when you get into bed, like, it's so important that we look at investigating things like your stress hormones. And what's also interesting is that when we have a high cortisol, we have increased appetite level. So it makes it easier to want to emotionally eat. When you're tired, it's so much easier to want to emotionally eat because you're like, I'm tired. I don't care what I eat. And when we are fatigued, we have increased production of ghrelin, which is your hunger hormone that makes you hungry. And we produce less leptin, which is the hunger hormone that makes you feel full. So it really makes it easier to enable overeating or emotional eating or binge eating, even just with this one hormone imbalance. Anxiety, like feeling spread too thin and you just react to every little thing. These are signs of a cortisol imbalance. And then, of course, what starts to happen for women is it starts to then impact our sex hormones and our thyroid function. So progesterone is one of your sex hormones. It is the feminine hormone, in my opinion. Most women that I work with, including myself when I was starting this journey, had very low progesterone. I had very little access to my feminine. I was very much in the doing, the forcing, the pushing, the control, the rushing. I didn't know any better. I was in survival mode. But when we have high cortisol and you have inflammation, your gut isn't functioning properly, you're likely not going to potentially have the healthiest ovulation or the healthiest egg quality. And we need good egg quality when we're ovulating to help produce enough progesterone and estrogens. Through your ovulatory, you're going to produce the majority of it through your cycle years, okay, through your reproductive system. Your adrenals, which produce cortisol, also do produce a little bit of progesterone. But if you're in a high stress response, that material that your adrenals was going to use to produce progesterone will be converted into cortisol, stress hormone instead. It's called the progesterone steal. And then we produce another hormone called DHEA. It's a steroid hormone. The adrenals produce that as well. And it's needed to produce testosterone and some estrogen. So if your adrenals are too stressed, it's going to take all that material and just produce cortisol instead of all these other hormones. And then you have a regular cycle, your cycle disappears, you have more PMS, PMDD symptoms, Your mood's so off in your luteal phase, which is your fourth phase of your cycle, about a week to 10 days before your bleed. You want to eat the world, like just you have cramps, you have headaches. Like it's not fun. Like if you're listening and you're one of the women that's like, I've got a brace a week or two before my cycle and like I can't live my life the way that I need to, there's definitely stuff going on with your hormones, inflammation, and these habits and behaviors that I'm talking about. You can't get pregnant, you're having miscarriages, fertility issues. So, these are some of the things that I see with women who are dealing with low progesterone and estrogen, and you have trouble falling asleep, you're awake half the night. It's not fun to be awake half the night, right? I went through all of that. And it's easier to gain weight. It's just easier because your body's in a state of stress, and the more hormone imbalances, inflammation, self-sabotaging behaviors, is just your body's in protection mode. Weight is a protective mechanism. She's going to hang on because she doesn't feel safe. It's that's what it is about. And so dieting and restricting and cutting more calories and trying to make your workouts harder is just going to stress your system out more and your hormones out more. I went through that. And it was when I actually quit the gym and slowed down and focused on rest, hormone balance, and really getting curious and going, okay, if weight is a protective mechanism and my body doesn't feel safe, let me get curious. Why doesn't she feel safe? And as I navigated all that 80 pounds that I gained literally fell off. I didn't have to do anything. I rested, I walked, I nourished my body, but most importantly, I really focused on the self-talk, helping her feel safe and really being slow and gentle with her. And it was mind blowing because the conditioning was you eat less and exercise more. So I broke that. And we need to break that as women because it doesn't serve us. Some women will have high estrogen. Okay. So I went through that as well. So sometimes if progesterone drops too much and you have like unhealthy candida fungal overgrowth in the gut, you have used too many toxins on your skin, you have taken on too many plastics, all of this can convert into like toxic estrogens, estrogens, and you can end up with too high of estrogen, which makes you puffy, easier to gain weight, brain fog, you feel inflamed, you just feel off when these hormone imbalances are going on. So getting your hormones tested is extremely important to see what's going on. Please don't just go to Google and search your symptoms and self-diagnose. We actually need to see the numbers and we need to see, okay, like, is it just cortisol or is it cortisol and low progesterone? Is it cortisol, low progesterone and a thyroid issue? Because each different imbalance is going to desire a different level of support and different things. And depending on the imbalances you have, if you don't know exactly what's going on and have all the information, certain supplements or ways of eating or certain things you may try may actually cause more harm than good. So getting that full picture of information is really important and testing and all of that. And I learned all of that and I had to make that shift. And the last one I'll mention is thyroid. So this is huge. Women are 60% more likely to have a thyroid issue than men. Or sorry, I flipped that. Sometimes I get dyslexic. Women are 8 times more likely to have a thyroid issue than men, and 60% of those thyroid issues go undetected. The problem in my beef with testing is the normal ranges are way too big. So I'm going to share an example. So thyroid stimulating hormone, TSH, is a hormone the pituitary produces. We should produce small amounts of it to help with thyroid function. However, due to high cortisol stress, low progesterone, poor gut health, inflammation, emotional eating, all these things we're talking about, that TSH, that pituitary gland, gets overstimulated and produces too much TSH. Then your hair starts falling out, eyebrow thinning, cold hands and feet, weight gain, you don't feel hungry, your libido's low, you're exhausted in the morning, muscle weakness, all these things start to crop up. So here in Canada, the TSH range right now, thyroid stimulating hormone, is 0.5 to 6.50. It used to be 0.5 to 3.50. However, from my own findings and other colleagues that are in thyroid health, we've all come to discover that there's a sweet range, which is 0.5 to 1.75. And once you go above that, you start to have hypothyroid symptoms, which is sluggish thyroid. And if you're waiting until you're out of that 6.5 range, you're probably dealing with a lot of symptoms. So if you go see your doctor, some of them may be fluent, but most of them will just scan through and go, everything's in the normal range. So you could be a 4, a 5, a 6 with this read and go, I'm having all these symptoms. And your doctor will go, yeah, but it's not that. Like, you're good. So I think we also have to advocate for ourselves because these ranges are too big. The medical system isn't reading them accurately, and you're going to continue to struggle with your symptoms. So you've got to use your intuition when you're like, something isn't right. I need to keep digging. So keep advocating and find the people who will work with you on this. I started just ordering hormone testing for my clients because I was tired of having the doctors say no, they won't do it, or, oh, everything looks fine. So I'm like, let's just get the information and look at it and show you exactly what's going on. But women have a lot of issues with thyroid. And a big part of that is they're not speaking their truth. They're not asking for what they need. They're not expressing themselves. They're holding back because they're people pleasing. They're afraid of being judged or afraid of conflict. So they're suppressing their thyroids. I feel that's a huge reason for thyroid imbalance in North America. I know they also say it's the soil, it's the iodine depletion, so be it. But most women I work with are people pleasers and are holding and choking their words back. And that makes a significant difference.
I see that.
So
I see.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So those are some of the big ones that I see. And if you keep in the same habits and behaviors, you cannot supplement your way out of a hormone imbalance.
Yeah. Yeah. So important. I love what you shared. Like, don't just Google it. And now it's like everyone's like, oh, I'll just use Dr. Chat GPT and then I'll figure it out.
No.
And it's like there's a place for that and it's not this. Like this is not where you want to shortcut your way and try and find like scraps of information. Like Chat GPT can't see a full picture of you as a human. And there's so many different layers and factors that go into this. And, even someone like yourself, like you have studied this so extensively. And this is all taking me back to like before I got into the world of feminine empowerment embodiment work when I was a clinical nutritionist. And I was so passionate too about all these topics because when you're working hands-on with women, you see so many themes, you see so many similarities, you get to see these patterns and then like you said, it's not just throwing supplements on it. There's lifestyle changes, there's mindset changes, there's
Yeah.
energetic shifts that need to happen. And it can also feel very overwhelming to be like, oh, I have to do all of these things all at once. And then that's even like a bigger stressor. So I do want to break this down. Like when you say it's not just about throwing supplements on it, like if we were to just come to like the basics of some foundational pieces that women can start to look at when it comes to supporting their body and supporting their hormones, like what would you say is a good place to start?
Yeah. So number one, you've got to get your hormones tested and work with somebody who has a more holistic approach and has that is very aware that the normal ranges are too big. Because otherwise they're just gonna look at everything and be like, you're fine. It's not any of that. So it's in your head or whatever, right? So that's the first step. Second step is, yeah, we don't do it all at once. So, in my opinion, while we're waiting to get hormone testing back, if you're emotionally eating, binge eating, or in the binge purge cycle, or you have a diet addiction, we've got to start working on healing your relationship with food because that is having a significant impact on your hormones, your gut health, like every aspect of your being. So we start working on understanding what are your emotional eating triggers? Why are you afraid to stop using your calorie counting app? Building a mindful eating practice, adding in that little bit of self care. Like this is done over weeks, days and weeks, not one like you have to start all this tomorrow. It
Mhm.
takes time to build awareness and start to understand why we've been behaving the way that we have, right? So that's important. And then once we get those results back, depending on the significance of the imbalances, it's like, okay, here's foods, teas, spices, and supplements that we're going to add in to support this, whatever's going on. And now I'm going to explain to you how your high cortisol is being impacted by you rebelling and staying up until 1 in the morning watching Netflix, how the emotional eating is impacting things, why we need to talk about a tech boundary, how people pleasing and you keeping yourself last is fueling this imbalance, and why the supplements alone are not going to do the trick. They'll help support some energy, help support your adrenal function while you make the habitual and lifestyle changes. But we need to talk about starting to set boundaries and
Mhm.
starting to block off more time for yourself. And that
Mhm.
could be 5 minutes. It could be half an hour. We'll figure it out depending on the woman's schedule. But like I always say, some women say, I don't have time. And I'm like, if you've got time to scroll and watch TV, you've got time to dedicate for yourself, right? Um, so it's things like that, making sure they're eating enough. Most women are not eating enough and they're deficient in protein and fat. And some women are really deficient in carbohydrates because carbohydrates have been poo-pooed. It's like, no, sweet potatoes and berries and all these wonderful fruits and vegetables we have are not bad. They're carbohydrates. They're not bad. We need carbohydrates to function. And if you have high cortisol, you need to have enough carbohydrates. Doesn't mean you go eat all the white bread and the processed grains, but we figure out which ones feel best for you. So there's usually things we have to add more of in to support better energy and stability. Sleep, hydration, like basic things, but things that like people are not doing. People are not hydrated. People are not getting enough sleep. So there's some foundational basic needs that need to be worked on. And then it's like that inner critic. I don't have time. Oh, resistance. I don't feel like doing this thing for myself. Oh, this feels too uncomfortable. So we keep avoiding. So there's a lot of coaching back and forth around that ego mind and what does it feel like when you give your power away to it? And what does it feel like when you take your power back? And how do we do that? Right.
Mm,
And so it's this accumulation of baby step working on these things over time that regulates the hormones, that helps improve the gut, that will help you heal your relationship with food in your body. But it is going to take time. However, it's worth it because then you have the tools and the knowledge for life. And if anything ever starts to creep off again, you know what to do to investigate and support it. But it's a
yeah.
process.
Yeah. And I'm hearing just such a holistic approach, right? Like really taking a look at this from so many different lenses and supporting women from that holistic space is just so needed. Like we are so multidimensional as women
Yeah.
and as even just as human beings. And so to
Yeah.
address like, the mind without addressing the body or vice versa, right? And not
Yeah.
looking at things like boundary setting or not speaking your needs. Like I think that there's a lot of missing pieces that can happen. And that's often why women try so many different things. They're like, oh, nothing's working. It's like, yeah, because
Yeah.
there's more to you than that. There's a bigger picture that we need to look at.
Yeah. And then what's interesting is once they start to like gain momentum with this, then the spiritual aspect and the energetic aspect come online. So they're like, wow, I'm a really sensitive empath. Wow, my intuition's getting really strong. My intuitive gifts are coming online. How do I manage my energy? So we talk about energy hygiene, how to like not take on collective energy, how, right? And all of that. And then they're like, wow, I'm manifesting more of what I want. So there's that whole conversation. So it's like so cool how they literally reawaken to their power and reawaken to other things that they didn't see or have awareness around before. And it's like incredible to then, help them with those things because well, we're all empaths to some extent. It's just that it's been suppressed, right? And it can be intimidating at first when those things come online. How do I deal with this? Right. So, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like so many women are brought into the spiritual space first through the body, right? It could be, challenges with the body or
Yeah.
even just like starting to go to yoga or starting to, really focus on their health. That's often like a first step because the body, honestly, the body is so intelligent. Like it
Yeah.
yells at us, it gets our attention, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
And it's trying to get us to pay attention to some of these deeper imbalances. And ultimately, I think we all know that we have the capacity for our highest potential. And I remember being in that space before I became who I am today, where it was like I just knew deep down like that there was something more for me and that I was capable of more and that, all of the heaviness of the negative self-talk and of the way that I was relating to food in my body, it was standing in the way of me reaching my fullest potential of both my own happiness and well-being, but then also like how can I be in service in the world and have the energy to go after my dreams and my
Yeah.
passions and desires. So it's all so linked together. And I saw that over and over again. And I love that you're seeing this in your work is like, when women come back into their bodies and into their power and they reconnect with themselves, like there's so much energetic potential that comes online and that spiritual essence that comes back online and that intuition that comes back online and that's what I want to see more of in the world is women who are living from that place and
Yeah.
yeah just it's beautiful to see the work that you're doing in the world.
Thank you. I think we're gonna see a lot more women come online to all that here.
Mhm. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I wish to see in the world. So, yeah,
Yes.
thanks for being like someone who's on a similar mission, and I'm grateful for your voice in this space.
My pleasure and likewise.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, we could continue talking. There's so much more. But I just want to, yeah, thank you for bringing your wisdom to us today. For our listeners who are ready to dive deeper, I know that you have a amazing podcast and you have some incredible programs and offerings and workshops. So where is the best place for our listeners to stay connected with you?
Yeah, so if you wanna check out the podcast, it's called the No Sugarcoating Podcast, and we have over 550 episodes, so there will be something for everybody if you loved our chat today. It's available on all podcast apps, and then the website is amberproof.ca. If you're wondering if you're struggling with emotional eating, you can take a free quiz. We've got a free emotional eating workshop series, a free weight loss block workshop series, and then if you wanna talk about support, whether it's hormones, emotional eating, etc., you can book in for a consultation. It's complimentary, and we can connect and talk about what's going on for you and why a different approach may be exactly what you need.
Amazing. And can you say the website again?
Well, yeah, it's amberapproved.ca.
Amberapproved.ca. Okay, beautiful. So we'll include that in the show notes as well as your link for your podcast. And that way everyone can come and reach out and get to be in your world and keep learning from you.
Thank you. I so appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks so much.